I came home from my brother's memorial service to find the guest bedroom door wide open, and my bedroom door fitted with a brand new deadbolt I had never seen before in my life. I stood in the hallway for a moment, overnight bag still in my hand, trying to make sense of what I was looking at. The lock was one of those cheap ones from the hardware store, the kind you could buy for $12 at Canadian Tire. Installed crooked too. Whoever put it in hadn't bothered to measure. My daughter came out of the kitchen wiping her hands on a dish towel. She didn't meet my eyes right away. "Dad, you're back earlier than we expected." I set my bag down on the floor. "Why is there a lock on my bedroom door?" She looked at the towel in her hands. "We need to talk." My son-in-law appeared behind her in the kitchen doorway. He had that particular expression he used when he'd already decided something and was waiting for me to catch up. He was 41 years old and had lived under my roof for 4 years without contributing a single dollar toward the mortgage. His mother needed somewhere to stay, he said. Her building in Mississauga had a fire in the utility room. Electrical. They've condemned 3 floors while the repairs happen. She needs the master bedroom because of her knees. The ensuite makes it easier for her. I looked at him. "So you moved me out of my own room?" "Your stuff is in the guest room. We moved it carefully." I walked past both of them without saying another word. The guest room door was open. My dresser was shoved against the far wall. My reading chair was gone entirely. Boxes of my things stacked on the single bed. My late wife Carol's ceramic lamp, the blue one she bought at a market in Prince Edward Island on our 25th anniversary, sitting on the floor wrapped in a dish towel that was not its own. I picked it up carefully and stood there holding it. 37 years I had lived in that house. I bought it in 1986, when the market in Barrie was still reasonable, when you could stretch a pipe fitter's salary and actually come out ahead. I painted every room. I replaced the furnace twice. I reshingled the roof with my own hands the summer my daughter turned 12. Every square foot of that house had my fingerprints on it. And now I was standing in the guest room holding my dead wife's lamp while a stranger slept in my bed. I put the lamp down gently, went to the kitchen and called my lawyer. "Ed, it's Howard. Sorry to call on a Sunday. No, it can't wait. I need to know what I have to do to issue a formal notice to vacate. Yes, for multiple people. Yes, including my daughter." She had followed me to the kitchen doorway. Her face had gone the color of old plaster. "Dad, you can't do that." "This is my house," I said. "My name is on the title. Your name is not. His name is definitely not. And his mother's name is certainly not. She's 67 years old. She has nowhere to go." Then he should have arranged somewhere for her to go before moving her into my bedroom. Ed was still on the line. He told me what I needed. 60 days notice in Ontario for a family member who had established residency. But since my son-in-law's mother had never been a tenant, had no lease, had paid nothing, her situation was different. She could be asked to leave with reasonable notice, and reasonable in this context meant something considerably shorter. I hung up and turned to face my daughter properly. She was crying. She did that sometimes when things weren't going her way. I had spent the better part of 4 years mistaking that for grief or vulnerability. It took me a long time to understand the difference. "We've been saving up," she said. "We just need a little more time." "You've been saving up," I said. "Both of you working. 4 years." She nodded. I went to the kitchen table and sat down. I needed to be sitting for this part. "Your mother and I bought this house on one income," I said. "I was making $32,000 a year when we got the mortgage. You and your husband together bring in over $140,000. I know because you asked me to help with your taxes 2 years ago. In 4 years, with no rent, no utilities, no property taxes, no insurance, you have not managed to save a down payment." She looked at the floor. "So either you're spending money in a way that you haven't told me about, or you have no intention of ever leaving." Dad, that's not fair. Which part isn't fair? I asked. The math or the conclusion? She didn't answer. My son-in-law came in from the living room. He sat down across from me without being invited, which was a habit of his. I had never managed to address directly. Look, Howard, he said, we're family. His mother is family. This is a family situation. There's no reason to involve lawyers. There's a reason to involve lawyers when someone installs a lock on a door in my house without my permission, I said. That's my property. That door is my property. That lock is an unauthorized modification, and I didn't consent to it. It's just temporary. You keep using that word. You used it 4 years ago, too. He crossed his arms. We've contributed to this household. I thought about that. About the lawn he mowed twice a summer if I reminded him. About the single repair he had made to the back fence, which I had then repaired properly because he'd used the wrong screws. About the groceries they occasionally bought, which were mostly things they liked to eat. I stood up. You and your mother have 30 days to find other arrangements, I said. My daughter is welcome to stay while she decides what she wants to do. But you are not, and she is not. I went back to the guest room, moved my boxes off the bed, found my own pillow in the third one I opened, and went to sleep. The next morning I called a locksmith before I made coffee, had him at the house by 8:30. New locks on the front door, the back door, the side door to the garage. New lock on my bedroom once I'd reclaimed it. My son-in-law's mother was a small woman with white hair and an expression of permanent, mild confusion. She was standing in the hallway in a housecoat when the locksmith arrived, looking at all of it like she'd wandered into the wrong building. "What's happening?" she asked. "I'm changing the locks," I said. "I'm sorry your son put you in this position. It wasn't fair to you either." She looked at me for a long moment. "He told me this was his house," she said. "His and his wife's." "It's my house," I said. "Has been since 1986. She sat down on the hallway bench, the one Carol had refinished with chalk paint the year before she got sick. She sat there very quietly while the locksmith worked. My daughter came downstairs at 9. She looked at the locksmith, then at me. "Dad." "Go get dressed," I said. "When he's done, we're going to talk." She went upstairs. I heard her and her husband talking in low, urgent voices. The locksmith pretended not to hear anything, which I respected. When he finished, I paid him, thanked him, and gave him a fair tip. He handed me 2 sets of keys. "Just the 2 copies?" "Just the 2. After he left, my daughter came down. Her husband had gone out. I didn't ask where. She sat across from me at the kitchen table. She looked exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. "I shouldn't have let him do it without telling you," she said. "No," I said. She waited. Rachel, I thought. I almost said it. Though my wife's name had been Carol, not Rachel. My daughter was sitting right there, and she had her mother's hands, Carol's hands, the same way of folding them together when she was nervous. I kept my voice steady. "You've been living here for 4 years without paying rent," I said. "I've covered the utilities, the property taxes, the insurance, the maintenance. I bought most of the groceries. When the hot water heater went in 2022, I paid for it. When the car needed brake work, I lent you the money and never mentioned it again. I did all of that because I love you and because after your mother died, I didn't know how to say no to you." She was looking at her hands. "But while your mother was dying," I continued, "I learned something. I learned that love doesn't mean absorbing everything. It means showing up. It means telling the truth. Your mother showed up for 34 years. She told me the truth every single day, even when I didn't want to hear it." "Dad, stop." "I'm not going to stop," I said, "because I should have said this 2 years ago." I had rehearsed this in a way. Not the words, but the willingness to say them. My brother Dennis had said it first, actually. Dennis, who I had just buried 3 days ago after his second stroke at 69. Dennis, who had come to visit me at Christmas and watched my son-in-law sit on the couch while I shoveled the driveway, and said quietly over his coffee, "Howard, they're going to be here until you make them leave." I'd laughed it off at the time. Dennis gave me that look, the one he'd had since we were kids, the look that said he'd said what he needed to say and was leaving the rest to me. I should have listened. I pulled out a piece of paper. I'd done some math that morning. 4 years at average Barrie rental rates for a 2-bedroom unit, I said. That's approximately $78,000 in unpaid rent. Utilities average roughly $400 a month for their share. That's another $19,000. Groceries, maintenance contributions, the brake job. Call it $110,000 conservatively. She stared at the paper. "I'm not asking you to pay that back," I said, "but I want you to understand what 4 years of saving should look like when you're not paying rent. The fact that you don't have a down payment means that money went somewhere else. I'm not asking where. I'm telling you that it tells me something." She was quiet for a long time. "Where are we supposed to go?" she said finally. "You're going to find a rental," I said. "Something in your price range, which is considerable given your combined income. I'll help with the first and last month's deposit if you need it, but you're leaving this house within 60 days. She looked up. "You really mean it?" "I changed the locks this morning," I said. "Yes, I mean it." She left the table. I heard her go upstairs, heard her on the phone, voice too low to make out words. I made myself breakfast, eggs and toast, the same thing I'd been making on Sunday mornings since Carol died. I ate standing at the counter because the table still felt wrong. That afternoon, my son-in-law came home. I was in the backyard pulling up the last of the dead perennials Carol had planted along the fence. He stood on the deck. "This is extreme, Howard." "Is it?" "She's my mother." I was trying to help her. I kept pulling dead stems. I didn't look at him. "You installed a lock on my bedroom door," I said, "without asking, while I was at my brother's memorial. You moved my belongings without my permission. You brought an additional occupant into my home without my consent. In Ontario, that's not just rude. That's a legal issue." "We weren't thinking of it that way." "I know you weren't." I stood up and looked at him for the first time. "That's the problem. You've been in this house for 4 years and you've never thought about it in any way that included me. I was the backdrop. I was the utility. I was convenient until I wasn't." He had no answer for that. His mother left the next morning. He drove her to his cousin's place in Newmarket. She stopped in the hallway on her way out and looked at me. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't know the full situation." "I know," I said. "I hope you find something comfortable soon." She nodded and went out. I watched the car back down the driveway. The week that followed was quiet in a way my house hadn't been in years. I went through the rooms slowly, put things back where they belonged. Found a picture of Carol and me at Niagara-on-the-Lake in 1904 that had been moved from the hallway to the back of a closet. I didn't know when that had happened. I hung it back up. My daughter wasn't speaking to me much. She went to work, came home, disappeared upstairs. I let her be. On the Thursday, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. "Mr. Howard, this is Kevin. I'm her husband's older brother. I know who you are. We'd met twice. Quiet man, worked in the trades outside Guelph." "I saw the notice," he said. "The formal one from the lawyer. I just want you to know I had no idea what was going on. They told us she was crashing with you after a rough patch in the marriage." I told him the truth. All of it. Long silence. "My parents," Kevin said finally. "They'd be sick if they knew. Our mother especially. She didn't raise him to treat somebody that way." "I appreciate you saying so." He hesitated. "For what it's worth, I think you're handling this right. Sometimes people don't get it until there's nothing left to avoid." I thanked him and hung up. I called my lawyer that afternoon. "Ed, I need to talk about my will." It was a conversation I should have had years earlier. Carol and I had done our wills together in 2004, back when things were simpler. My daughter was the sole beneficiary. The house, the savings, the RRSP, the small rental property I'd bought in 2015 out in Innisfil. All of it. I'd never revisited it after Carol died. I want to restructure it, I said. My daughter stays in, but conditionally, and I want my brother's kids included, Dennis's children. They were there when he was sick. They called, they visited, they brought food to the service. Ed walked me through the options. We talked for an hour. I went to his office the next day and signed the new documents. Walking out of that office felt like setting down something I hadn't known I was carrying. 2 weeks later, my daughter knocked on my bedroom door on a Saturday morning. "We found a place," she said. "Apartment in South Barrie. 2-bedroom. We can move in at the end of the month." I nodded. She looked at the door frame, at the new lock. "Dad, I need you to know I'm sorry. Not just for the lock. For all of it. For the way we let things go. For not asking what this cost you." I looked at my daughter. She had Carol's eyes, same slight tilt at the outer corners, same way of going very still when she was being honest. "I know," I said. "Can we?" She stopped. "Can we get to a place where things are okay between us?" I thought about that carefully before I answered. "That's what I want too," I said. "But it's going to take some time, and it's going to take some work. Not a phone call. Not a dinner where we pretend. Actual work, probably with someone to help." "Therapy?" "Probably, yes." She exhaled. "Okay." She moved out on the last Saturday of the month. I helped carry boxes to the truck, which I hadn't planned to do but found myself doing anyway. Her husband and I didn't talk much. We were civil. That was enough for now. When they drove away, I stood on the front step for a while. The street was quiet. A neighbor, 2 doors down, was raking leaves. Somewhere on the next block, someone was running a leaf blower. Ordinary Saturday sounds. I went inside and walked through the house, room by room, the way I had when Carol died, and I was learning to be alone in it again. Kitchen. Living room. The back room with the windows Carol loved, where she used to sit with her tea in the morning. The hallway with our photo back on the wall where it belonged. My bedroom. I stood in my bedroom doorway for a moment, my dresser back in place, my reading chair by the window, Carol's lamp on the nightstand, blue ceramic, a little market in Prince Edward Island, 25th anniversary, still intact. I called Dennis's son that evening, my nephew David. He was 34 and had driven 6 hours to be at the memorial. "You doing okay, Uncle Howard?" "Getting there," I said. "Listen, I wanted to ask. Your dad's birthday would have been next month. I was thinking I might drive out, spend a few days, if you and your sister would have me." "Are you kidding?" "Of course. Mom would love to see you. We all would." After we hung up, I made tea and sat in the back room where Carol used to sit. The yard was dark. The maple in the corner had gone mostly bare. In the spring, I'd have to decide whether to take it down or let it keep going. It was getting old, but the roots were still solid. I sat with my tea and let myself think about Carol, about Dennis, about the years I'd spent in this house with people who loved me and the years I'd spent in it with people who took my presence for granted, about the difference between those two things, which I understood now in a way I hadn't before. My phone buzzed. A text from my daughter, just 3 words. "I love you." I held the phone for a moment. Then I typed back, "I love you too. Get some sleep." And I meant both things equally, which was not a simple thing to mean at 63 years old, but it was the truth. 3 months later, an envelope arrived in the mail. Her handwriting on the outside, careful and neat the way Carol had taught her. Inside was a check for $500 and a letter. 2 pages, handwritten. "Dad, This is the first payment. We've set up an automatic transfer. We know it won't add up to what we owe, but we want you to know we're not pretending it didn't happen. We started seeing someone, a counselor in the annex. She's helping us understand some things about ourselves that we probably should have understood a long time ago. I'm not asking you to forgive me yet. I'm just asking you to know that I'm trying. Your daughter. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time after reading it. Then I folded it carefully and put it in the cedar box on my dresser, the one that held Carol's last birthday card to me, and the letter from my father when I graduated, and a few photographs of Dennis when we were boys. The check I deposited, not because I needed it, but because refusing it would have meant refusing the gesture, and the gesture was what mattered. The work was just beginning. I knew that. Trust is not a door you unlock once. It's something you build back slowly, on honest ground, with both people showing up. Whether she would keep showing up, I didn't know. I hoped so. I intended to find out. But in the meantime, I had a house that was mine again. I had keys that only I held. I had my nephew coming for a visit at Thanksgiving, and Carol's lamp on my nightstand, and a maple tree in the backyard that was old but still standing. Some holes don't close. You just learn to build your life around them carefully in a way that still holds. I was learning. I think about that cheap deadbolt a lot. $12 a Canadian Tire, installed crooked by a man who had lived under my roof for 4 years without paying a cent toward it. That lock told me everything I needed to know about how my son-in-law saw me. Not as the owner of the house, not as a person who had earned anything, but as an obstacle, something to be managed around. What I've come to understand is that the situation didn't happen suddenly. It happened the way most slow damage happens, gradually, quietly, one small accommodation at a time. The first year they stayed, I told myself it was temporary. The second year, I told myself they were saving. By the fourth year, I had stopped telling myself anything at all. I had just gotten used to it. And that's the thing about letting your standards erode slowly. At some point, you look up, and you don't recognize what you're standing in. Dennis saw it before I did. He always had a clearer eye for the things I wanted to look away from. At Christmas, he sat at my kitchen table and said what needed saying, and I laughed it off because it was easier. 3 months later, he was gone, and I came home from burying him to find a lock on my own bedroom door. There's a particular kind of clarity that grief brings. It strips away the comfortable reasons you've been giving yourself for not acting and leaves you with just the plain truth of the thing. The plain truth was this: I had confused loving my daughter with absorbing everything she and her husband chose to do. Real care, the kind Carol showed me for 34 years, doesn't mean accepting being treated as furniture. It means being honest. It means holding a line even when holding it hurts. My daughter had never had to develop her own resilience because I had always caught her before she could learn what catching herself felt like. That wasn't love. That was me managing my own discomfort at the expense of her growth. When I changed those locks, when I called Ed and updated my will, when I told my son-in-law he had 30 days, I wasn't being cruel. I was being honest for the first time in years, and honesty, I've learned, is its own form of respect. It says, I think you're capable of better. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. The $300 my daughter sent 3 months later wasn't the point. The letter was the point. The fact that she was sitting with someone trying to understand how she got there, that was the point. Growth doesn't look like a grand gesture. It looks like a check and 2 handwritten pages and the willingness to begin. I kept her letter in the cedar box with Carol's last birthday card, not as proof of anything, just as a reminder that people can find their way back to themselves if the conditions require it. Sometimes the most decent thing you can do for someone is stop making it easy for them to be less than they're capable of. The maple in the backyard is old. but the roots are still solid. Some things hold longer than you expect if you take care of them properly. I'm still learning what that means, but I'm learning it in my own house, on my own terms, with my own keys. That feels like a start.